Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the Star Trek Lower Desks. Lower Desks. I'm going to leave that in. Lower Decks podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
Hey, LT. How you doing?
Hey.
Yay.
And hey, Kyle.
Yes, hey, me.
Kyle.
If you guys don't know, Kyle's been away from us. He was basically unable to cover Fear the Walking Dead with us. So it's been a while, since we did a show together.
It's been
October of last year, I think. No.
Yes.
It was
April or
It's been a long road getting from there.
Yeah, I don't remember what episode it was on Fear, but then it was I'm moving. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it was the Here's Negan episode. I think it was the last one we did with you. Yeah. That's right.
Oh, well, I'm back, and I'm so happy to be back.
we're happy to have you, and we're back covering Lower Decks, and I'm really happy it's back. I've been waiting for this. So we'll be covering tonight Season 2, Episode 1 of Star Trek Lower Decks, titled Strange Energies. Before we get started, I just want to mention, I had this in the episodes from last season, so I was like, do I want to keep this? But I thought, yes. If you're listening to this on the Star Trek Picard cast feed, and you want to watch Star Trek Discovery, and for that matter, probably Prodigy, I think I'll put on the Discovery feed. You may want to subscribe to the Star Trek Discovery podcast feed instead of this feed. We'll let you know when you need to change over, but it's worth saying. Or subscribe to the Talk Through Media Lower Decks. Jeez. Talk Through Media all-inclusive feed, which will also get you the re-binge DS9 and the other podcasts that the three of us do, The Walking Dead Talk Through. And also worth mentioning, I don't do it at the start, but I'm going to do it at the start tonight. Our Patreon. It's at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. And we've been, it's been a while since we've done an episode of it, but we actually had some ideas. Actually, LT and I were talking about what to do with our Patreon episodes. We may be changing the format of those going forward, and custom episodes and that kind of stuff. And just, we'll have more on that when we have something more solid. But all right, so tonight we are covering Season 2, Episode 1 of Lower Decks, titled Strange Energies. Keeps making me think of those stupid pantyhose commercials from the 70s. Sheer energy. Anyway, Strange Energies, written by the showrunner Mike McMahon, executive producer and creator, directed by, I didn't recognize his name, Jason Zurich. He's not the supervising director. So I don't know how he fits in I didn't notice him in the credits otherwise, but I didn't really look too hard. The description from, we have to say, ParamountPlus.com, because it's not CBS.com anymore. The season premiere, approximately 3 months after the events of the Season 1 finale, the USS Cerritos is dispatched on a mission where it ends up in a quote-unquote sci-fi event, resulting in quote-unquote strange energy, which Commander Ransom inadvertently absorbs. The star date, I didn't catch one. The air date, and they always say this because it's Pacific time, August 11th, 2021. I'm unsure of the release time because I didn't catch it right at its, actual reload time like I used to do. Anyway, the runtime of it was 24 minutes and 50 seconds. So Let's go to you, Kyle. What did you think of Strange Energies?
I gave it a 9. We got some sci-fi stuff happening over here. Out of 10.
I am going to give it 9. This jam session's got too many licks and not enough comp.
That was a good one.
Because I heard that, and I agreed with Boimler. It's like, what the hell does that mean? So, you guys know me. I had to go look it up. So, if you think about it, like, you always hear guitar licks, that's like a solo. So in jazz, it'd be like Riker, doing a trombone solo. And the comp is basically the rhythm section, laying down the rhythm tracks. So that's what it means. I never heard of that before, but that's what it is. And I saw that that article that you pointed out, I think was from Den of Geek, and they got it wrong. Because I checked the subtitles, and they said comp, not count.
Oh,
so they got it wrong. You didn't get it wrong. They got it wrong. All right. So we have listener ratings, and of course, as a listener, I don't know, listener, guest, co-host, we don't know what to call you yet. LT, what do you think of this episode?
Well, I gave it 9 out of 10. Why do they keep showing me lights?
Oh, I love that too.
I laughed about that. I've been laughing about that all day.
I was laughing about it too when I was watching it earlier. And Wes from Minnesota says, I give this Strain Energies 9 leg days out of 10.
That's funny.
All right. So let's go to our yeses. And we go back to Data.
Yes!
All right. Our first yes comes from Wes from Minnesota, and he says, the Cardassian prison cold open. It is full of humor and stuff, and it's really fun. Also, the ending where the Titan crew gets their bodies warped, and Riker says, I love my job. Yep. That was one I was thinking of adding, but then I saw you took it, Wes, so I'll let you have it.
I didn't even hear him say I love my job.
It's like really hard.
It's when his head was getting really stretchy.
Yeah.
It was that last thing he said. It's like, I love my job.
Yeah. I definitely like caught it on multiple watches. I'm like, oh, that's right. That's where he says it.
Cool. All right. LT, what about you?
Well, one of my big yeses was the NCC 1877, the USS Macduff in the cold open. I just thought it was really cool that even in the future, the ship she chooses to escape in is the good old movie era Reliant class.
Yeah, and it looked just like the bridge that Khan was on.
It's one of the things they did this time. It was whoever did the rendering for that, hats off, man.
Yeah.
Now, I also have to give a big yes to when the doctor dropped the boulder on Ransom.
Yeah.
Because she got a forklift. After she was talking in the first thing, when they had the little Gary Mitchell graphic up on the bridge, they're like, well, how did they stop him? It's like, well, they dropped a boulder on him.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about my other issue with that scene a little later. But here comes the doc with the forklift. Boom. Dropped the boulder on him.
Yeah, that was funny.
It was funny.
And after last season, I had a bad case of the giggles when the exchange between Captain Freeman and Mariner, now that they like each other, when she was dragging her off to the brig, the fact it was the same things. It's like, you don't listen. I do what I want. But instead it was like, love you, Mom.
Yeah. And, they said at one point that they don't like each other, but I don't agree. They do. They just don't.
Yeah.
They just, well, I have something to say about that in later, but
well, just my 2 cents. having been in a position where when we were still in the scouts and my son is the senior patrol leader and I'm having to put the leader hat on, you run into that thing of, you kind of deal with your kids differently than you deal with other people's kids.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it was funny at some point, one of the other leaders is like, LT, you are probably rougher on him than you're being on anybody else. And I'm like, okay. So we kind of made a deal that if he needed to be yelled at, it'd be somebody else. So I could absolutely see where, it's, especially now that they've actually gotten to where they don't actively dislike each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's a way to put it. They don't actively dislike each other as opposed to the way they were, certainly at the start of season 1.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense because it's like I wasn't taking their interaction on this episode as like they like didn't like each other, like, or hated each other or whatever. It felt more like, oh, well, yeah, it's like your sibling or your family member, it's like, yeah, it's like you almost are like jokingly saying, I hate your guts, ha ha ha, but not really, but like, I don't know. It's just the fact that they work together. That's the problem, not that it's mother-daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I've heard it when, Kyle, maybe you know something about this. When you live with your spouse and you work with your spouse,
Yes, that's. Oh well, that would be a deeper discussion for it. But yes, kind of like that.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. What about you?
Well, for start, just obviously the start of the episode, it was Mariner and the holotherapy, like that she's basically doing, and like I love that it was like it's her therapy is this like Cardassian torture chamber. I mean, it's the hollow now, like a hollow program, but it was just like fun that it's like, oh, that's what she's choosing to basically like blow off steam, talk about things, or whatever. And I know that the open that there was saying it was like it has calls off of the TNG episode Chain of a Command, which gosh, I haven't seen that in forever. But it's like I just love that sort of scene, or like that Star Trek sort of scene that we see, because it's like it reminded me of like Dr. Bashir and his spy hollow novels from like DS9, or like Janeway, her major use of the holodeck to basically work through problems or like
right,
like deal with stuff. And to me it's just like it's such a very Trekkie thing.
Yeah.
So I just really enjoyed like that was here we are for the season premiere of season 2, and that's kind of like our first little introduction for this for this season. And so I don't know, it was just a lot of fun because that's, to me, it's a very Trekkie thing to do.
Yeah.
The other thing, it was like Mariner was asking about the trinkets that her mom was, I guess, collecting from like every side mission, which I thought that, to me, the side mission and then like a away mission, I guess it makes sense, but it was like, I don't know, that for some reason that kept kind of throwing me off a little bit. But anyways,
well, that's kind of why I'm thinking that they really don't hate each other. Like if she's keeping those trinkets, then she's obviously proud of her daughter, and there's some kind of a memento there she wants to keep.
Yeah, totally to remind them of their journeys or their adventures or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But the one thing that popped in my mind though immediately after during that scene was like a Picard, because he always had some trinket.
Right.
Like something that was presented, or like that flute, or like or something. He always had something from many away missions that or something that he did. And I don't know, it was kind of interesting because it was like it made me start thinking about Picard and being like, oh, what if he had like a close family member that was like under his command? And it was just like to see like what that kind of interaction would be like. And although there's no Picard connection here, it made me think about that kind of stuff, like, oh, I would have loved to see that kind of interaction in that, the next generation, as we're seeing in this show. And so I don't know. They do a lot of callbacks and little Easter eggs and stuff like that from all the shows that we love, that it was I don't know. It just, that's what popped in my mind. It's like, oh, it's kind of like, I wonder what Picard would have done if he was in that situation.
That's a curling Nescos. Or the Toxu Tot. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. It was just fun scene. Loved it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only other thing I had was just like the one-liners, which that's pretty much the show always has.
Yes.
I tried to write some of them and I was going through my notes, but the obvious ones was like when Ransom, like, I guess his big head was like growing arms. He's like, oh, he's growing arms. It's like, brace for grabbing. And then Riker was saying something. He's like, somebody punched me a way out of this or whatever. The incident was like punching.
Yeah.
But they do that throughout, and I love it. It's just, it always just makes the show fun.
Yeah, I have one down when Boimler says, Mariner, you got to get me out of here. They keep showing me lights. And that's, of course, the off 4 lights.
Yeah. It's good. It's sometimes I feel like it's stupid, but it's also just a lot of fun.
And another one was, Captain, there's a giant head approaching the ship. I thought that was funny. Yeah. So I had a few myself. Some of them have already been given, but I like that we got to see the Titan again. I figured we would, but I enjoyed that. Like you, LT, seeing in Miranda class, that was also very cool. Look, just like the Reliant, like, what is that? 1864 NCC 1864, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Also, one thing about that, when that was going on, I got a kick out of the fact that Tendi and Rutherford were completely oblivious to what was going on. Like, literally, Ransom's head was right outside their window, and they were completely oblivious to it.
They run by and he's gnawing on the.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. He was like gnawing on the nacelle.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't even notice.
Yep.
I wanted to get a clarification. There was a scene when I don't know if it was from Star Wars or was it from one of the Trek movies or whatever. It was like, see them when they're going to the McDuff, Mariner and that Cardassian. They go along a big corridor. And I'm trying to remember where did we see a corridor like that? Is that from a Star Wars movie? Is that from
that corridor was a
Trek movie?
I don't recall. Well, basically the thing that totally popped in my head though was like Star Wars, and when he's like running in the Death Star, and there's like that there's like that walkway, or whatever, and him and Leia are
that's what I was thinking it was. Yeah,
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I don't know a Star Trek version of that.
Yeah.
Well, it's still very science fiction-y.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that was cool. One thing I caught that the Cardassian torturer, obviously hologram torturer, called Mariner an extremely bad person.
Yeah.
A torturer called her an extremely bad person. What's she? And the last thing, the whole thing that Ransom was doing, like he sets up like a whole race of ransoms, and what's he doing? Oh, he's working on his buys and tries.
when you see him picking up the trees and like trees and cars and other stuff.
Yeah,
and you hear him. And you hear him in the back going, "Woo! Feel the burn!"
Yeah, and when they're like, what is it? Is he putting down gym equipment? So the whole thing was crazy, but I enjoyed it. So Boimler, I got a kick how completely out of his league he was. Like he's like screaming on the bridge, during this attack, and I'm thinking to myself, that is so Boimler.
Yep.
But when he said, what does that even mean? I was just right even there. I'm like, what does that mean? That's why I had to go look it up. I just had to know what it meant. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it for our yeses. So now it is time for our no's.
No!
All right, Wes from Minnesota's no is Ransom being a godlike figure. It was funny and good, but no. Ransom is too much of a butt kisser to have deserved this. It would have been better if Mariner was the one getting the godlike powers. Would have been funnier.
That is a good one, Wes.
It's a good point.
I didn't see his comment till later, and then I saw what you're basically putting in there and agreeing, and I'm like, I never thought about that, and it kind of would have made a kind of different show, but it would have made a little more sense.
It would have, but the problem with it that I could see is how do we get out of that? Like,
yeah,
it doesn't create the dynamic between Mariner and her mother. So and it puts Mariner in a godlike position, which I don't know, but I like her character being in that position. I don't know. It changes the story around completely.
Yeah.
So
completely. Yeah, because it wouldn't have been focused on it. Well, it would have taken a different turn for a focus between her and her mom.
Yep.
Yeah.
In that kind of situation. At least this time they were kind of working together, but not really. And then they had a kind of a common enemy.
You couldn't switch Mariner and Ransom. Like it wouldn't. The story wouldn't work. So like it wouldn't work if it was like that.
Well, and it wouldn't work, and it wouldn't also be like there wouldn't be anything comedic about it because Mariner is very dark or can be dark, and so it was like, okay, not this Ransom like who's kind of the dude and be like, of course he had godlike power. He's turning people into his like gym buds and like turning everything into
turning everybody into gym bros.
Yeah, gym bros. But if it was Mariner, then it would be like, oh, this would be a darker turn. That would have been a completely different episode.
Well, and we kind of also had that already in a way with Vindicta
last season.
Yep.
So
when we had the let's make a movie episode.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So that might be why they didn't do it, because it's similar. But I do have something in my nose where there's a similarity there that I'll get to. Okay. So speaking of that, LT, what about you? What do you have for nose?
I just had one no. I did think that the nut shot gag was kind of funny the first 2 times, 3 times, but it just kind of got a little wincy for me when she's sitting there doing the Garo Eupremian on him. Like his eyes are glowing. Boonk.
I loved it. There's like it was just funny that would like she had to basically keep knocking it out of him until they dropped the boulder on him. Like I don't know. I can see that. It happened fast. So
and that's the only slight objection that I can come up with.
What about you, Kyle?
This kind of was like a little back and forth, but it was like Tendi trying to like medically induce kill Rutherford. It was like I mean, it was kind of good to take us out of the Ramsonator because I felt it was a little like but I felt that was just a little too much. It was like, we had the scenes where it's like, okay, here's Ransom, godlike, doing crazy things. Everybody's like freaking out or whatever. And then we would cut to Tendi and Rutherford, which like, in a sense, like their scenes like ignored everything that was going around them.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun because it was just like, oh, it kind of just broke all the craziness going on.
Right.
But then it was also just like she was just so over the top about trying to cure him and like, oh, like chasing him around, like, or like put the electric buzzers on him. It's like, and he's all like, oh, well, what's this do? Oh, it's supposed to shock you. And then he was like, oh, this hurts too much. But then that went into like he took off, and then she gets a gun, which who knows what was in that thing? Like it was like some
chasing him with the vaccine launcher.
Yeah. But then that turned into him running down the hall, and then she's got the hypo sprays or whatever. And he's like, what's in the hypo spray? It's like, oh, like medical, like venom or something.
Yeah.
Medical venom.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was funny and like, okay, because it brought us out of like the main story. But I did feel like it was just a little bit like over the top. It was just like she was getting almost like crazy psycho and not just like, I don't know. It just kind of felt a little like, okay, I get it.
It's the first time that I had ever heard that she was a doctor.
Well, not like officially. She worked in. Yeah,
she's still just a medic, but
because I thought that they implied that she was a doctor. But anyway, maybe she's a doctor, medical student or something.
Yeah. Well, the other cool thing is you just got to keep in mind when they were having their interaction and you see the giant head flying around. I mean, wasn't that sort of the premise of Lower Decks, that this is what goes on in the ship when all the bridge crew is bracing for grabbing?
Yeah. I mean, they're totally, I can't, disagree with that. And it was nice that, we were getting those moments. The whole, her chasing him just and turning into being like, oh, I just don't want you to like not be friends with me.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I get it. Cool. And I mean, I know there's some talk about, that, we'll maybe see them, develop that, relationship or shipping.
They'll be them. The Mulder and Scully of the of the Lower Decks.
Say,
will they or won't they?
Well, that's what ruined Moonlighting, man.
Ross and Rachel.
Yes. And add a monkey. It's over. Yeah, so that's really all I had.
Okay. I had a few things. Why is Freeman sharing command with Mariner? Working with her is one thing. Sharing command with her is another. So I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like clear, like, no. Was she just like number one or she's, her number two or that's, I didn't really quite catch that.
And then, completely. At one point when he was the big head and he said, like I was your second command and then, she became your second command. Oh, you can share command with us. It's like, well, why would he have to? I mean, she's a lowly ensign who you can send on side missions, but like, I didn't understand why she'd be sharing her command with Newsom, that's the actor's name, Mariner.
She's just trying to talk giant Ransom's head down.
But anyway, I guess it talks to a relationship that is there, and according to what I heard them talk about at Comic-Con, there's going to be some playing of that. And to that end, there was one thing that I noticed is that when the whole thing, happens, I did notice that Ransom was like calling out to Mariner, Mariner, get away. Like, so he kind of saved her when that happened. It wasn't just that he got hit, but he kind of saved her from getting hit.
He's still trying to look after his team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one thing I didn't like the most, although I did like it, but I liked it on one level, but disliked it on another level, is little Buddy Stevens. Okay, where's this guy come from? It seems
he was in a few episodes last season.
I only remember him in one, and that was the first episode, like when they're coming back from the planet where, Ransom gets bitten and basically turns into a zombie. I remember him on that episode, but I don't remember him any other time. So for him to be that prominent this episode, I was kind of surprised. So, and I noticed.
I remember seeing him in the background a couple of times.
Okay,
I know Mariner said, shut up, Stevens.
Yeah, and I noticed that I guess he's played by the same voice actor that played Shax last year, because his name is still on the credits. So maybe Stevens plays a more like central role this season. I don't know. We'll see. But I found him way too butt kisserish. So like if Wes thinks that Ransom is a butt kisser, what is Stevens? He's anyway. One thing that I was kind of surprised about, I put a screen capture in there, and it was it looked terrible. And this isn't directly something to complain about Paramount Plus, because I know Paramount Plus isn't alone in this. But the thing is, if you try to screen capture them, the screen goes black. Yep. You can't do it. So what I ended up doing to get this picture, which looks terrible, is I had to take a photo of my TV that had this image on it.
I could tell.
So yeah, and it looks terrible. But what I was trying to show you guys is that it was a scene when Tendi has those like electrodes, whatever, on Rutherford in the cargo bay, and there's this whole like junkyard looking cargo bay, and I just thought, like, what's up with that? It just like looks like a total mess. And you see the Sequoia mentioned there, and it looks like there's like graffiti on the shuttle and stuff like that. I just thought that was not appropriate to Starfleet. So
well, that's the same cargo bay they were hanging out in last season.
It is, but why would it have graffiti? Why would that shuttle be all marked up like that? Why is there all this stuff?
Well, why did Mariner put graffiti on the wall of her brig cell?
Well, yeah, I did notice that too. Maybe it's all Mariner doing it.
Could be.
I just figured that every house has a junk closet.
This is borderline nitpicking, Brian. But no. But I didn't. I looked at it. It seems so out of place. That was my take on it. So I thought I had to bring it up.
Well, you never saw the storage closet on the Enterprise.
And who am I to say? I mean, if they were filming, where I live, it would be 1,000 times worse. Anyway, but all right, so let's move on to our not good enough section.
Not good enough, damn it! Not good enough.
All right. Well, our first one comes from Wes from Minnesota, and he says Starfleet not prioritizing aesthetics. Mariner asking to power wash was fun. Yep.
I mean, come on. Starfleet's always squeaky clean and dust free.
Yeah, maybe they don't pride themselves on aesthetics at other worlds, but themselves they do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's paragraph A of the Prime Directive.
We don't clean up other
We don't
world
clean up
messes.
your mess.
We don't give
Yeah.
sonic baths to, sonic power washes. All right, Kyle, what do you have?
It was Boimler and only getting to see him at the end. It's like, I mean, we did get to see him at the beginning with Mariner and the holodeck, but every time they talked about him, it's like I just wanted to like see kind of like a little flash of him, of like what was going on. And it was kind of, they were saying, oh, I bet his room is like really nice or big or whatever. But I would love to see some flash of him like in terror or screaming or like doing something. But we're gonna see more of him, obviously. But I just kind of was like, kind of wish they had a little bit more little quick flashes of him.
Well, you did get to see him screaming.
No, we did get that, but yeah, it was just every time they were talking about him, I kind of wanted to see little flashes of.
I did too.
Where what was
or
he
like
was
in
doing?
the first part, I'm only a hologram.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Well, what I put down is during the Titan scene, I couldn't help but notice that the enemy ships looked like they were cartoonish, but the Titan looked, quasi-realistic, like it looked like a 3D designed ship. Like it actually looked like, it came from 3D CGI rendering, whereas the other ships, all those great ships they had in that, wherever that Cardassian thing was, they all looked 2D. The ships that Titan was fighting against, they just looked, penned. So the difference between the two, like seeing one versus the other, seeing like the Macduff as another 3D rendered, beautiful looking job they did of both those ships, of what they look like versus what the other ships look like. It was a little distracting for me. That's my point. That's why I say it's not good enough. And I agreed with you guys, I think, about the Tendi plot. For me, it felt like Mariner in that episode where, Boimler had a girlfriend, and
oh yeah,
Mariner is, thinking that she's all these different possible things she could be, shapeshifter or succubus or whatever. And it turns out that she was just a regular woman, and he had some alien thing on him. But it was a similar kind of thing where she's going after something wrong with her friend. So that's why it felt very similar to what we had there. So I wanted to bring that up.
Yep.
LT, what about you? What do you have?
Well, I was just going to say that poor Rutherford just cannot catch a break.
No, he can't. And he could have gone to cetacean ops, and it occasionally gets mentioned, got mentioned several times in TNG about cetacean ops, of course, the Cetacean Institute. But there's this thought that there's I don't know, dolphins or whales or something somewhere in the starship doing some kind of like operations, and we never get to find them out, never get to see it.
It's still the ultimate Easter eggy name drop that we've never gotten to see.
Yeah,
because we've seen it on the blueprints, they talk about it, but we've never been there.
Yeah, but if they were ever going to do it in any show, this would be it.
They can do it here.
Yeah.
And my other thing was, poor Rutherford, that he had his chance with Barnes, and obviously Barnes still has a little feeling for him because she keeps giving him second chances, despite of the fact that, they had the problem with the emergency code for the door. And now that Tendi's chasing him with vaccines and hypo sprays. I know everybody's going to ship Tendi and Rutherford. I'm still hoping that he can at least get one good date with Barnes in.
I think he's going to. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't get any impression that Barnes is done with him, and sometimes relationships have to come around before they go around. So you and sometimes the best things are right in front of you. You don't realize until you you know what I mean.
I do.
So that may end up like a situation, which like I think in some ways is like similar to Riker and Troy. I mean, they dated other people, through Next Generation, and then eventually ended up right where they had started, a couple years before TNG, and ended up, married and with children. So
living on a planet making pizzas.
Yep. Buttercorn sausage. Yep. Okay. So that's it for our not good enough section. So let's open hailing frequencies. All right. And now it's time for our feedback section. And we've got a voicemail from Keeping His Streak Alive, Jeff X-Force 11.
Hello, Star Trek fans. This is Jeff X-Force 11 leaving my thoughts about Lower Decks Strange Energies. It is so fun to have this series back. I enjoy the comedy of this series, and it's just so light and so fun. I love that we're still getting shout outs to classic episodes of Trek, and we're getting to see our Lower Decks crew. And I am looking forward to this season. It's just going to be a highlight towards the end of the week just to have this fun goodness. I'm liking where they're going with Mariner. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But I like our Lower Decks crew, and soon as Boimler can get back, I think it will be a whole lot more fun. But I'm going to enjoy the ride of seeing what he's doing with Riker's crew for the time that we get it. All right, those are my thoughts. X-Force is out.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. X-Force 11. First voicemail of the season. And like I said, you're keeping your streak alive. I think you gave us feedback for all of the
last season.
all of the Lower Decks, all of the Discovery episodes in between, and all of the Picard episodes. So your streak is still intact. You're like Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah. Nope. I have to like a lot of what he said, and that's what makes this show fun. I remember just now thinking, like, when the show first started and we first started covering it, and where I was then to where I am now. And it's just like the show is fun. It's just like there's a lot of it's not perfect, and it doesn't need to be. It's just it gives us what we want.
Like last season, there was a lot of uncertainty about it because it's an animated show. Oh, it's, comedy. Are they going to make fun of Star Trek? Are they going to be respectful? Or are they going to give us what they want? Or is it going to be terrible? And, everyone's like worried that they're going to screw things up. And now that most of us have, thought that they've done things right, we can kind of, relax and just enjoy it. And I think, things are maybe not quite as stressful as they were 1 year ago when we were in the mid of, big COVID and there wasn't any vaccines and stuff like that. Things are still bad and life is still crazy and the world is still crazy. But I think this is I've been waiting for this show because I need something to make me laugh. And this show makes me laugh. And
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched it a couple of times in the break, like in between us covering Walking Dead shows and covering this show, and yeah, it's great, So I
It's the same thing that I said last time, that this show to me is the sort of in jokes that a bunch of Trekkies would make with each other.
yeah
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I appreciated about it so much, that you could tell Mike McMahon is a fan,
yeah
and he shows it, because I think that he makes it funny, but he's not being cruelly funny about it. That he's being funny like a fan would be.
And I think it's a show that you don't have to have that level of Star Trek fandom to enjoy. Like, I think you can just enjoy it on the comedic level. And if you just have like a passing knowledge of Star Trek, I think you can enjoy it on that level, like as a casual fan. You don't have to get all of the in jokes, but if you do know all of the in jokes, it's even better.
Yeah.
But I know it's not, for everybody. I mean, I know some people didn't care for it. So, to each his own. But for me, laughter is good for the soul. And like I said, this is exactly the show that I need right now. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of now was like looking at what I would put it down later in my other notes, but it's like that's one of the things that I'm starting to really like appreciate as being a Trekkie, but then also being like I'm not the most like Trek educated person, and like I know enough about the lore, I know enough stories because I grew up with this, but what I really love though is like. Yeah, if I was coming from this, or like someone that had zero experience with Trek, there's still a sci-fi element, and
Right.
if you're, so it's like that's there is like enough to kind of like, hey, it's fun sci-fi cartoon, whatever. But like being in the Trek universe, it's like what I love is like it's it's like they do all these nods, and I'm like, I might know them or I might not, but it doesn't matter because it's like, oh, I know there's something there, but it's making me like actually go like online and like start looking at like, oh, what was this connection? It was like, yeah, what was this episode? I'm like, gosh, I haven't seen TNG in forever. Like what are they talking about?
I have to admit, there have been some that there's been a reference to something, and I go, what was that from? And I go look it up. And, even me at kind of pretty much an expert level, there are some things that I don't remember because, in some cases there's Trek that I haven't watched in many years. So I just, there's still some things that I have to be reminded of, but anyway.
Yeah. And that's what that's why I am getting like an even more enjoyment out of this. It's like being kind of reminded of stuff from like my childhood of watching an episode, or like I didn't really grow up or really watch the original series, but I know there's a lot of references, and so it's like,
yeah,
I was looking up the whole deal with what's his name? Why did I just forget it? The whole episode was about Gary Mitchell.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, that's something. Of course, I looked it up. I'm like, oh, that was the original series. I'm like, I have no idea really what that's about. And then I looked it up, and then I started reading about it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And it just, I don't know. It's kind of like, it's just like making me kind of like enjoy and like, like relive and dig more into my love of Trek. And that's like another layer that's just making me enjoy the show. I don't care about if it's a cartoon or like, oh, they say this and that, it doesn't make sense or whatever. It's just like, it's kind of reintroducing me back to the show in the world that I love. So I really enjoy that.
I agree. All right. We don't have a lot of feedback this week, unfortunately. So I guess we'll go to our own notes if there was anything that any of us wanted to say or cover that we hadn't really talked about yet.
Not really on this episode, but I was kind of bringing in about like I think for me this season, I'm definitely looking more like more. I'm looking forward more of seeing Boimler on the Titan than I think really anything else right now.
Yeah.
Because I just because it's like they keep doing these nods and TNG and all this other stuff, but also because we got to see Wrecker and Deanna last season. So it's kind of like, oh, I want to see, both of them and maybe Q. He was in last, season, but it's like kind of like those little cameos I would love to see. And it's also, we know that we're going to see Tom Paris on a commemorative plate. And I'm like, okay, who else are we going to see from like Voyager or Enterprise or like, any of them? I'm kind of like looking more like I want to see more of that this season. As well with I love our characters, and obviously I'm doing this podcast with with you guys over it, but it's like I don't know, for me it's like I'm kind of really looking forward to that kind of part to see.
Well, and the great part about that, Kyle, is that because it's animated, we don't have to worry about somebody complaining that the particular actor got old or maybe gained a few pounds. And it's the possibility that as long as they can record, you've got every show, practically every show in the book. If the actor's alive, you can have them do a guest appearance. So yeah, I think that's absolutely exciting.
Provided they can sound, roughly the same as they did,
No, it's true.
Yeah.
The only other comment that I had, I don't know if I want to hold off until we get into the list, or I was thinking about Jennifer.
Yeah. Yeah. Jennifer the Andorian and Barnes the Trill. Those two, both the, human names for aliens. So I don't know if they're partially human or if they've just taken human names, but there's just something fun. When I hear Jennifer, and it's funny because I know lots of Jennifers, but the way that she says Jennifer, I think of Karen.
Well, the thing that I think she's
that old
doing,
Karen thing,
is I expect, that this Andorian's name is actually like Jan or something else, because, I went to school with a guy who was named Bobby, and when everybody got sassy with him, they'd call him Robert, which was actually not his name. He actually was a Bobby.
Right.
So I could sort of see that her name is something else, but Mariner, just to be sassy, is calling her Jennifer.
Yeah.
And just the way she says it is so perfectly mean girl. It makes me laugh a lot.
I know that, and I don't think they do this as much as they used to, but like say Indian people, when they would like move to the US, they would take an English name. Same with Asian, Chinese.
Yep.
They'll take an American name. And it may be something that, is related to their, native name or sounds like their native name. But, like I remember, one of the guys that I worked with at, my employer, like, 2 employers before this one, he went by the name of Ron, but his actual name, I found out like after like 2 years knowing the guy, his real name was Ramki,
Yep.
And I'm like, well, why didn't you just tell us your name was Ramki? I would have called you Ramki. And, it just wasn't a thing that they did. But anyway, it could be something like that.
Yep. There was a guy that I used to deal with a lot when I was still on the road, and he went by Lucky. And I finally asked him, I said, "That's not your real name." And he said, "It's because there's too many people around here have problems saying it and spelling it." So
yeah. So it could be something like that.
It could very well be.
Yeah.
the way to, well, since it's Federation standard, to standardize some unpronounceable alien name.
And for that matter, it could be, maybe they're talking Andorian or Trill, and whatever they're saying is coming out Jennifer.
Yeah, well,
who knows? Maybe there's a direct correlation in Andorian to Jennifer, and it, just, I don't know. But it was something that I thought of when that's come up, just how people, out of their, native culture will take a new name out of like another Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead. He's another example. His original, his born name isn't Stephen, but he took Stephen when they moved to the States when he was 2. So anyway, you got anything to say, Kyle, about
Nope.
the episode? There was one thing that I will say, and that is that the episode seemed pretty ludicrous to me on the first watch, and way over the top on the first watch, and it kind of grew on me on subsequent watches. So like I enjoyed it more and more with each watch. So I just, when I first saw it, and I was watching it on my phone, that first watch, actually the first 2 watches. So like just watching it there, and it just seemed like all this crazy stuff's going on, and we see Ransom becoming a big head, and Ransom spinning around with like the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat or something.
Yeah.
It seems so crazy, but as I went back and watched it again and again, it grew on me more. So all right, so we've got some spot the references from denofgeek.com. I know we've picked out a lot of them already, but just since we didn't get a lot of feedback, we might as well go through some of these tonight. Okay, so here's something that I didn't notice that I'll bring up that Den of Geek brought up, because in the season 1 opening credits, of course, we see the Cerritos running away from a battle involving several Borg cubes and a bunch of Romulan warbirds. Well, apparently that same battle this time includes a pack-led ship, a few Klingon birds of prey. So I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I didn't notice that either.
Yeah,
I did.
Of course you did.
I'll have to go back and check that out, but I didn't notice any differences. So
it's slightly different. The Packlet ship is like in the middle left of the screen.
Okay, I'll have to look. Yeah, I was like looking for changes, but then I only got to really watch it twice, so it just went by fast.
I had wondered, like, if the Cerritos itself looked any different. There was like these, like, I don't know what you'd call them, tail fins that I don't remember on the ship. They were kind of a gray color. I don't remember if they were there or not last season. They probably were. I just didn't notice them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they mentioned.
I was to say, come on, you've got to mention the interpersonal conflict.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing that they mentioned is that this, we were talking about the whole Jennifer thing. There is that one thing where Mariner says, "I know we're not supposed to have interpersonal conflict, but I really hate that Andorian," and that's of course reference to Gene Roddenberry's philosophy that in the 24th century there is no interpersonal conflict, at least amongst the Federation, that they've grown beyond that. That's why she says that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one exception. I like to think of it as, you know, maybe that those on the Cerritos aren't, quite at the level of, say, the Enterprise. So they're, they still have to aspire to a lack of interpersonal conflict. And of course, Mariner still has her, she's still a lump of coal, becoming a diamond, but she's not quite there yet. She's still got some black spots. I did notice the fact that Fred Tataciori's name is still in the credits. Shax, so they mention it as well. And so I know that we're supposed to be seeing a what is it? Tamarian security guy. I think that's next episode. I can't wait for that because I've been wanting to see Shaka when the walls fell referenced again. But anyway, another thing, of course, the whole thing around Ensign Barnes, that was in the first episode. They had that first date that was mentioned before, but that was from the first episode, Second Contact. They speculated if the Rutherford hating pears was a Doctor Who reference. I don't know what that has to do, if that was true, but supposedly a couple of the doctors hated pears. So I don't know.
Yeah,
that is correct, sir.
The sonic, cleaning, like a power wash, that's like the sonic showers, so they don't use water. Let's see what else.
Yeah, the LDS thing, I thought it was LSD, but I guess I didn't. I heard it wrong.
Well, he did say LSD, but that was the joke from Star Trek 4, where he says LDS instead of LSD.
LSD,
the free speech movement at Berkeley.
He did too much LDS in the 60s.
Yeah. Mention about my older sister got a symbiont. I caught that, of course. That was and let's see. Supposedly, Nightingale Woman is also a reference from Where No Man Has Gone Before, the Gary Mitchell episode, in which Gary Mitchell quotes the poem Nightingale Woman from memory. In Trek canon, that poem was written in 1996 on the Canopus planet. In real life, the poem was written by Gene Roddenberry, who originally wrote the part of the poem describing flying a plane. So, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I believe that's it. So let's move on to our shipwide announcements, because we've got a lot of news. It's been building up for several months now. And I want to thank Wes Huntington for collecting 99% of this. Start off with that showrunner or franchise leader that keeps getting fired every 6 months. So we keep hearing, according to the doomsday sayers of Doomcock and the Midnight's Edge on YouTube, Alex Kurtzman has been signed an extension to his development deal with CBS, originally signed in 2018 to go 5 years. It's now been extended to 2026. And he's now getting a big pay raise, which will make him up to $160 million. And I know several people, LT and Ruthie, if you didn't hear this before, the the Section 31 series is still in work. So we could very well be getting that soon. And it's, I think, just a question of, I think we'll probably see it, you know, I know that Michelle Yeoh is busy. There was a series that was announced.
Yeah, she's working.
Yeah. Was it a Marvel series or was it something else?
I think it was a Marvel series, and I think there was a TV show she was in.
Right.
So.
Right. Anyway, so she was specifically mentioned that the Section 31 show was coming with Michelle Yeoh attached to it. So, I mean, rest assured, I believe we will see it at some point. If anything, I would think that it will probably happen when either Picard goes, off and has its last season, or one of the other shows, takes a break, or, goes away
Right.
for some time, and that's when they'll develop it. But there's new management that is running Paramount Plus, and this is basically a full stamping of approval of Alex Kurtzman's job, that that they like what he's doing to give him this big contract extension. And I think it's fantastic. And so
it's just another elaborate ploy from CBS to cover up the fact they fired him.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, those guys. And apparently, also mentioned, and I heard some discussion about it. I know that Robert Duncan McNeil has been in there to pitch, I think, about a Captain Proton series, but
I heard that,
but nothing specific. But apparently, there has been some discussions about doing a Worf-centric series as well, possibly a Worf comedy, which I think that would be perfect. I mean, Worf, you wouldn't think of it, but Michael Dorn and playing Worf had some of the best comedic timing, and just these
true.
He was so funny so much of the time on that show, on both shows, that he would be great, I think, playing the straight man, but Captain, I am not a merry man.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I know you were going to mention it, but also, since it's on the list, I'd heard something else about the Starfleet Academy series that they're proposing.
Yes.
Which again would be another layer that I think would be a lot of fun to explore.
Yeah, and I think that could be a potential, CW series. It could be going after like that, like 18 to 34 demographic, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that demographic, like those Gen Zs, they were growing up at a time when Star Trek wasn't around. And
that's right.
The 2005 to 2017 gap, when there was no Star Trek on TV. I know a lot of people that I've met that are, in their late 20s or early 20s that just don't know Star Trek. They've heard of it, but they don't know it. And, this might be a chance to get some of those people. So,
oh yeah, because I know the kids in the Gap.
Yeah.
Technically, even though my son was born on the night that Voyager premiered, he's been exposed to it, and my daughter's been exposed to Star Trek because of me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the reason that they're both sci-fi fans, and they like comic books and superheroes and things like that.
But probably their friends don't,
Well, but some of their friends do.
Mm.
And what I've noticed is some of the kids that like the Marvel movies have also been the ones that have been more receptive to science fiction stuff.
Yeah.
So, like you've said, it's good that we're getting more shows, we're getting diverse shows.
Yeah.
So that if we can, to not to sound like multi-level marketing, but if we can get their foot in the door, if we can get the hook in their mouth, then, there's a lot of Star Trek for them to watch and hopefully become a fan of.
Yep.
Yep. And it's just Star Trek, just like with everything else, just needs to keep, updating and telling new stories, because obviously everything is going to get dated, and how you like, and only like what you grew up with. Like Voyager is only going to be good for so long with its material, because it'll get, it changes, and it'll be like, oh, but I grew up on that, so I love it. But I'm glad. What I'm excited is the fact that we have Trek that's being developed, even if it's not coming out exactly, every 6 months or like whatever. But I think with the pandemic and stuff, that's like screwed up everybody's schedule. Yeah. I would love to see where we're back on this rotation of where like, oh, Picard airs here, and then once that's over, it's like, oh, then we go into Section 31, and then that's done. It's like, oh, Discovery's back. It's like having a natural rotation of stuff.
Well, and we also have Strange New Worlds coming.
Well, here's what I think this is the first week of probably 53 weeks of Trek. So we're going to get 10 weeks of Lower Decks, 10 weeks of Prodigy, 13 weeks of Discovery, 10 weeks of Picard, and then 10 weeks of Strange New Worlds. And then, who knows what after that. But to me, that's what we're looking at right now, is we're going to have 53. This is the first week of 53 straight weeks of Trek. And so help me God.
So what are you saying?
Because I will be podcasting every damn week from now on, and I probably won't be, because there's going to be I've got some things going on in February specifically that is going to make it difficult for me to keep that streak going. But we'll see.
Well, hopefully we have a little more bench depth now. So
yeah. Star Trek Discovery co-showrunner Michelle Paradise was out there laying some subtle hints on Twitter. I think this week, or I don't know when this was true, but that she is assembling the writer's room for a 5th season of the series. Of course, there have been several of the actors that are at the, what is it they call it now, the 55th anniversary whatever, but it used to be called Star Trek Las Vegas. It's going on right now in Las Vegas. So there's several actors from Discovery, even some of the main cast are there. There hasn't been an announcement that the 4th season shooting has completed, but they must be close. And they're already talking about, writing the 5th season, according to Michelle Paradise. So that's cool. I was very disappointed to hear, but it appears that LeVar Burton won't be the permanent host of Jeopardy after all. He, did guest host on Jeopardy a couple weeks back. And of course, it was this big petition to get him there. And I have to admit, I didn't get to see him on there. I don't even know how I can watch Jeopardy, because with the cable package that I have, we don't get the local channels. So I'm not sure how to watch Jeopardy without the local channels. So anyway, sorry to hear that, but I'm sure maybe he will be there hosting some other, show that's similar, or, I think from what I heard, that first show was a little had some problems that weren't necessarily his fault was like a problem with the buzzer or something like that. That's what I heard. I'm hearing this third party. So
Well, hopefully we can get Captain LaForge back.
yeah, there you go.
All right.
Orville news. Apparently, Seth MacFarlane has announced that season 3 of the Orville has finally wrapped production after several COVID-induced hiatuses. I guess they must have had some COVID issues on set. I don't know. Originally planned for 11 episodes, they had to cut it to 10. The head of Hulu, Craig Erwich, has expressed optimism that it will start airing this year, and maybe more seasons are on the horizon. Well, maybe more. I don't know. I tend to think it's been a long road getting from there to here, but it has been a long time for the Orville to get from season 2 to season 3. When was season 2 on? Wasn't it like
goodness?
I think it was right
2 years ago.
Yeah.
I
think now it has been 2 years.
Yeah, because I think it was going on the same time Discovery was having season 2.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So and of course Discovery's had season 3 already, and then finishing up season 4. So yeah, they're way behind.
And I don't know where they shoot it.
It's somewhere in LA. I don't know if it's right in LA, but
because all the LA productions have had a harder time of it than the Canadian productions.
Apparently. Yeah. So anyway, that maybe thing. What I was going to say is, I think the show will do quite well for Hulu, so I would fully expect it to get renewed. But we'll see. I was very pleased to see that Playmates toys, and I'm going to show you this. I think you guys have all seen this. It is Low Cutie. I've had him for almost 30 years now, but you can't see him. Hold on.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I'm holding up, listeners, is a Playmates figure of Locutus, and I call him Low Cutie, and he has been sitting on my desk for 20-something years. And I
have my Starfleet Academy Picard with hair.
Yeah. Starfleet Academy Picard with hair. Anyway, he's my little sidekick. He looks at me when I'm having trouble coding, and says, I will assimilate you if you don't hurry up. Anyway, they have announced through Paramount that Viacom CBS that they have a new agreement for a Star Trek toy line, and will start making toys again for Star Trek in 2022 based on the new show. So
cool.
I think that is fantastic.
Yep. Agreed.
And if you haven't seen it, have you seen the Playmobil Enterprise?
No.
Apparently Playmobil is making a TOS Enterprise.
Oh,
that is scaled for the Playmobil figures, which if you're not familiar with those, they're probably 2.5, 3 inches tall. I saw the price tag on it. I'm not going to be buying one. I want to say it was like $400.
Oh, wow.
But it's huge. It's 3 feet long.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
But it's most excellent that we're starting to see some merchandising.
Yes, that's what anything I can collect, I'm happy for.
Well, speaking of collecting, there is a link in the Facebook group about this. And believe me, if you go take a look at the website where the link is at, it will blow you away. There is an auction that's being held between September 2nd and September 16th. That will be, I think it's for charity. It will be for props and costumes from seasons 1 and 2 of Discovery, and also the short treks. And I'm telling you, when I took a look at the stuff that they are auctioning, it blew me away. Like, the amount of detail in some of the things that they're auctioning off, costumes, and just the fine level of detail in the costumes, the props. There's this like really elaborate knife that I think was a Klingon knife, if I'm not mistaken. There's this the Tellarite that was in the Escape Artist. He had this like really elaborate chair that he sat in, and they're auctioning off that chair. Just amazing looking props and the uniforms, and just like everything that they're auctioning off. Like, they're auctioning off like Culber's uniform, I believe Stamets's uniform, Saru's uniform, Burnham's uniform, Giorgio's outfit from what is it from? I think season 2. There's a couple of the Mirror Universe things. Anyway, just if you take a look at those pictures, you will see just how much detail is there. I don't have a dime to be bidding on any of it, but man, it would be amazing to have just one of these pieces.
Yeah, and it says like there's going to be over 200 original props, costume, set decorations. So it's like, yeah, I'm the same with you. I'd be like, I want to see the whole list, because I'm like, if there's like, oh, this is a button that fell off of one of the uniforms for like $10, I'm like,
and what
I can afford it.
And what they have on the website there, those are probably the best, pieces that they have. And they probably have, some smaller pieces, or some, not so impressive pieces, but the pieces that they have are just, they're so amazing looking. Yeah, I was very impressed. The writer of the Tarantino Trek movie, Mark L. Smith. Yes, we have more news. Mark L. Smith revealed more details of what that story would have been. Apparently, it would have been a time travel dealing with the Sigma Iosha gangster people of a piece of the action. I don't know if it's the same thing or something like it, but Smith still says that there's about a 10% chance that it will be made at this point. I'd say, I don't know how likely it is, but supposedly the next Star Trek film that they've announced, given a release date for June 9th, 2023, is going to be directed by Matt Shackman and written by Geneva Robertson Dworet and Lindsay Beer. I know that they both written something recent. I can't remember what it is. But if I don't know, I just can't remember what it is, but I'm sure somebody will tell me. Kalinda Vasquez, who was originally, mentioned as a writer, and was one of the writers of Terra Firma Part 2 in season 3 of Discovery, and I believe she wrote a short track. I know her name from Fear the Walking Dead as well. She was supposedly, writing another script, but this is not that script. So there's supposedly 2 movies that are in development, and I'm assuming that one of them is Kalinda Vasquez's script. I don't know. For those of you in Europe that were worried about Lower Decks, obviously you are getting Lower Decks, pretty much the same as you get, Picard and Discovery. Unfortunately, the people that are in Latin America don't have Lower Decks yet. They will be getting it in September, I guess, when Paramount Plus starts there. So if you're hearing this and you're, in Latin America and you don't have your Lower Decks, wait about a month and you'll get like 4 episodes or so, and then you'll catch up to us. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is this next thing for Prodigy, and that is that apparently, and I know you guys in Europe, you've had to have Netflix for your Discovery, and you've had to have Amazon Prime for your Lower Decks and your Picard, and now you're going to have Paramount Plus for your Prodigy. So apparently Paramount Plus is going to be opening there in 2022. So you'll be getting it in 2022. And I guess that probably means that if I'm right and Prodigy comes in, right in after Lower Decks in, say, October, you guys are probably going to have to wait. I hate to say. But of course, I don't know this for sure. But anyway, it will be available thanks to a partnership with Sky. I guess that's like a network provider or something, a satellite provider. I don't know. You in Europe know Sky. I don't. The motion picture director's edition will finally be getting, it says an HD restoration. That is incorrect. It is a 4K restoration. So it will be going to 4K. And the process will be taking 6 to 8 months, and it will be available on Paramount Plus in 2022. And I put in, this is where Wes goes from 100% of the news content to 99%, because I had to add this. By the way, it was removed. A bunch of the movies were removed from Paramount Plus at the beginning of August. So if you went looking for the motion picture right now on Paramount Plus, you wouldn't find it there. So it's apparently on AMC Plus.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
Yeah. So Anson Mount will be a father. He announced it Thursday, I believe. His wife, Dara Trang, is expecting. I don't know how far along she is, but I saw a picture of him with a big belly. Obviously, he doesn't have a big belly, but it was a funny picture. Ken Mitchell has revealed a subtle hint at the 55-year mission convention in Vegas that he may be appearing in season 4 of Discovery. And I was saddened to hear that he appeared there. And when he was speaking, like they were, I guess, using some kind of synthetic recorded pieces or something. Apparently, he has lost the ability to speak because of his ALS disease. It has, hit him rather rapidly, In season 2, of course, he played Tenavik and, could still walk. And, in season 3 of Discovery, he was, still there, but he was in a wheelchair, but could still speak. And now he can't even speak. So that sucks.
Sad.
Yeah. Last piece of news. Yay, we're at the last piece of news. Rainn Wilson, Harry Mudd, has revealed at the 55-year mission that he has spoken to Akiva Goldsman about reviving the role of Harry Mudd for Strange New Worlds. And I would welcome this.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are some people that hate Harry Mudd, but through what is the name of that episode?
Oh, Short Trek.
The Escape Artist and the...
Was it Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad?
Thank you. Thank you for the save. Magic to Make the Sanest Man Mad. Meh. Sanest Man Go Mad. Those two saved me from that. loved his performance on both those episodes, and I welcome him. I was hoping that maybe they would show him again, although I wonder how they'll do that, because I don't think Spock knew of him when we see him
Right.
in, so but I could see, if maybe like number one and Pike meet him or something, who knows? I could see them doing it, but Spock can't know him. Anyway, so that's it for our big long news edition. So I'm going to give my
voice arrest.
And Kyle, why don't you tell people how to contact us?
All right. To submit your feedback and to connect with us, submit your theory and feedback. Go to talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit text or audio. You can also call 216-232-6146 and leave a voicemail there. You can also email us at lowerdecks@talkthroughmedia.com, or you can also send us an email at StarTrekDiscovery@talkthroughmedia.com. Post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, and you can find that at facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTMP.
I'll do a save there. It's Star Trek TTM podcasts. So it's plural at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the part that caught me off guard. All right. The deadline for Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 2 will be on a regular day and time, Friday, August 20th, 2020. Of 2020. Yeah, it is 2020.
2021.
It's 2021, sir.
Goodness.
Okay.
We haven't updated the deck. Oh.
Brace for temporal anomaly.
Yes. The deadline for Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 2 will be on a regular day and time, Friday, August 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central.
I'm keeping that stuff in. I don't care.
Yeah, fine. You can edit.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
All right. To support us, you can support us at Twitter, and you can find us at Star Trek TTM.
And Instagram.
And at Instagram. Is it at Star Trek TTM?
Yep, it's also Star Trek TTM.
All right.
And I wanted to do it this week, but I didn't get a chance. I am thinking about maybe trying to do some Instagram lives during, like, say, after an episode. Maybe Thursday night, or maybe even while we're recording, or I don't know. Just to I don't know, get some feedback. Because I've been involved with some Instagram lives, and they're actually pretty cool. So I wanted to experiment with them a little bit. So cool. That's why I want to mention Instagram. So I intend to start posting on that account a lot more. So sign up. Follow if you don't already follow there.
Awesome. And also a great way to support us is to share us on Twitter and Facebook. Fake book. You're keeping all this in, right?
I'm keeping all of it in. It's gold, Jerry. Gold.
I've been a little out of practice, so
we're doing it live.
Yeah.
Do it live. You can also find us at facebook.com at Talk Through Media. And there you can write a review. Share us on Facebook and retweet us on Twitter, especially when we post that the new episode is out. You can also subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. And also, while you're there, give us a rating or review.
And also worth mentioning, Podchaser. You can rate us and review us there. So podchaser.com. And that is actually syndicated through several of the other podcast apps. So like Player FM, for example, uses that. And there's a few others as well. You can also support us through Patreon. We would like to thank our newest supporter, Mike. And I don't know your last name, Mike, so I'll just say thank you, Mike. But he has been a faithful supporter throughout like our hiatus. So thank you so much, Mike, for your Patreon support. It helps. Like if you guys don't know, even when the show's not on, there are expenses that are month to month for hosting and several of the other things that you need to, get along that are monthly. So whether there's an episode that comes out or not, whether there's like 5 episodes or 0, there's still some hosting stuff that comes through, and some of it we pay in a year, and some of it we have to pay by month. So it's a pain. And anyway, so it's all helpful. But we would like to thank our supporters. We mentioned Mike already, but our other Patreon supporters: James Robbins, Kim Vogley, Brian Shiro, Christoph Leitner, Lee Radke, Michael Carrier, Stephen Chambers, Kevin Lyle, Jeff Gentry, our former newest, Robert Kaiser, Clint McCollum, this guy over here, Kyle McAdams, and that guy over there, LT.
That guy.
And I mentioned it at the start, but all of our... Actually, no, I didn't mention it.
You did not.
I did not mention it. Oh, well, but I'm mentioning it now, that the very first way that you can listen to us is by subscribing to the Talk Through Media channel on YouTube. The episodes go out there first. So if you want to listen to us, it can be anywhere from like a few minutes to I've had it be as long as like 18 hours earlier than it makes the podcast feed. It just all depends on how well the podcast post goes, and sometimes we'll publish it out, we'll find a mistake, and we'll fix it before it goes into the audio. But the YouTube will say, "Oh, screw it, we'll just leave it as is."
It gets it first.
Like for example, we try to do the episodes, clean, but the ones that go out to YouTube, we're not saying are clean, so they can, if we keep in a swear word accidentally, we'll just let it go. So that kind of thing. Anyway, so you can listen to us first on there. You don't get to see us. We don't publish our ugly mugs, but you will listen to us there. And I did mention though that you can find us on the Star Trek Picard cast feed, but if you want to listen to like us when we go to Prodigy and Discovery and Strange New Worlds, make sure to subscribe to the Star Trek Discovery podcast feed. I may have an announcement about that feed or another feed coming soon, but before I get into that, just sign up to that feed. That feed will continue. And there's also the Talk Through Media all-inclusive feed, which also includes us 3 doing the Walking Dead talk through and the Re-Binge DS9 podcast. So, if you want to hear more of us, starting next week, we'll be covering The Walking Dead again. So that's at the Walking Dead talk through. So look for us on talkthroughmedia.com or subscribe to us in your podcast client of choice. So our next episode of the Star Trek Lower Decks podcast is season 2, episode 2, called Kayshawn, His Eyes Open. And we don't know who's written it, directed it, and we don't have a description. But until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.
Engage.